Well, good morning, of course, and a Sunday morning is a very particular time, and I hope that what I can say will make some sense or be of some use. But if you can't hear and you can't, if you're tired and you can't listen or concentrate, I'm quite comfortable with that. I do understand. I want to wander with a few words on a rather odd sort of topic about sleeping under the stars, sleeping on country. And I want to recall my childhood, and when Sunday morning was a very quiet thing. The whole world was much quieter then. There weren't quite so many microphones and sound systems and traffic. I want to recall something of that time. It was so different to this overstimulated world where so much is coming at us all the time, and how it forces us. It's always impacting on us so heavily. And I just want to pay tribute to the possibility of another way of being. And so Sunday morning was sometimes people would go to church and there would be a sermon. Now, sermons can get a very bad name, but as a boy, I recall hearing a few sermons. Most of them went over my head, but there were some good ideas. There were parables about, the Good Samaritan and so those sort of things that Australia might need at the moment. There were stories about, there were words like, blessed are the meek, blessed are those who mourn, blessed are the merciful, for they shall be shown mercy. They were all interesting ideas to a young boy. I thought about them then, I think about them still. So in that spirit, I want to give you a little parable, but not a sermon. Very simple. Parables are simple. Something I experienced many years ago in a place called Lockhart River. Lockhart River is in the very far north of this country, a remote indigenous community on the coast, surrounded by rainforest and a lot of sharks and a lot of crocodiles. A very vibrant and very struggling community. And I lived there for a short time and was working in the arts centre amongst some marvellous old people. And I recall a traveller was there. It was not a tourist town. A traveller was there, a white woman from Melbourne. She was talking to an old Indigenous man. And she was admiring and referring to the way the Indigenous people connect to this land and to spirit of country. And she was troubled that she wanted to know how this was done. How could she, a white person, connect in this extraordinary way? And the old fella smiled. And then he looked at her and he said, well, maybe you could just go out in the bush and sleep there one night on the ground. Sleep on country. And that line has stuck with me ever since. Sleep on country. Such a simple thing to say, but so profound. And of course, I'm talking to you all, and last night you slept on country. Most of you, I guess. So you know what it's about. But I think the old fellow was talking about going out in a small group or alone into total peace, no light, just nature, and lying there. Every summer I try to do that, and I go to a paddock in northern Victoria and lie there under the stars. And I must say, I guess most of you know this experience, but I suppose I'm just honouring that experience and saying it's worth valuing. It's something that can be done. And it is so profound and so healing. There is the earth beneath you, from which we come, really. We sort of come from the earth. Everything that we've ever eaten comes from the earth. We're made up of minerals and water and whatever. We're part of the earth. So there we lie, and it is so solid and so steady. The thing that the world is not at the moment. this steadiness, so simple. And there above is something else. It's radiant. It's the biggest sight you will ever see. It's the most vast spectacle it's possible to see. And so there you lie, and you turn away from the earth. You turn away from humanity, if you like, and you stare upwards like a child. You turn to childhood, and you lie there innocently, and it is extraordinary how held you feel, and how perfectly small you feel, and how vital is that smallness to feel again, and to realize you are not the center of the universe. You are just part of the universe. It's not all about you. It's a bigger, more marvelous thing. So there you wonder. You cannot help but wonder. And the stars seem to rain something down upon you, which is extraordinary. And you sleep. And in the morning, the dawn, you wake before the dawn. The birds will wake you. You hear birds you've never heard before. And you wake. And then this extraordinary transition from darkness into light, as if you're being born. It's true. I seem to be wafting on a bit, but it's true. There is a very profound experience in transition, and it's a little example of how our darkest times become light, imperceptibly, slowly, but they do become light. So a new day begins. Many years ago, I was in the Fink River, sleeping in the Fink River. Well, not in the river. It never flows. It rarely flows, but it's the oldest watercourse in the world, an ancient watercourse in Central Australia, famous for a pink sand, beautiful pink sand. And there I had the most extraordinary experience of sleeping very serenely after watching the meteors come and go. And I slept so peacefully. At some time in the night, I was awakened, not by a sound, but a meteor. I now can say that. I think it was. It was the brightest meteor I have ever seen. It came from the eastern horizon and travelled slowly across the sky to the western horizon, very slowly and brilliantly. And I was so bedazzled, and it disappeared. And for a split second I lay there, dumbfounded. And how could I respond to that? Well, what I just did what a child does. We are taught to make a wish. And it was a really dumb, simple thing to do. So I made this little wish, and I was lost for what sort of wish can I make. So I said to myself, I hope everything will be okay. Now, that's a pretty pathetic wish, but meaning I hope everything will be good enough. And I think that's what okay means. And instantly I went back to sleep. And I woke at dawn the next morning, and I got up and I walked around in the desert alone. And I must say, I have never experienced such peace and contentment and well-being and gladness about life and creation and the earth. I had never experienced such a thing, and I have never experienced that since. Now make of that what you will. I still don't know what to make of it, but it was that thing of sleeping under the stars. And then it can be funny. Some years ago, I travelled with two painter friends. They were painters. One was a friend named David Larwell, a painter from Melbourne, and the other was an old Indigenous man, Ginger Riley Mundawalla Walla from Northern Territory. Alas, both David and Ginger have died and gone on to bigger and better things, no doubt, but their paintings remain. And we travelled together right up through the centre to Arnhem Land. We slept under the stars every night in swags. At the end of the day, we would come to a creek bed where the sand was soft. And we would find a spot on the sand, and David and I would say, oh, here's a good place, we'll sleep here. Invariably, Ginger would say, no, we'll sleep over here. And then the next night, we'd sleep there. The next night, the same thing would happen. Here's a good spot to sleep. Ginger would go, I'm not sure. Maybe I think over here is the right place. So David and me began to think that Ginger, this very old, wise, very funny, very mysterious man, a brilliant stockman in his youth, but now a wonderful, wonderful painter. We thought he knew about some good place in Indigenous terms, bad place, good place. And we're thinking, Ginger knows where the good place is to camp. And eventually curiosity got the better of us, and one of us said to Ginger one night, Ginger, we picked this spot here, but you picked that. Why did you pick that spot? Why do you pick these spots with such certainty? And he said, well, because there's more firewood over there. The lesson being, we can get carried away and lose our common sense. And it was funny, and I'm reminded of that woman who asked the old Indigenous man, how do I connect to the country? Just sleep on it. I think I've probably said enough and mystified you enough and mystified myself enough. But so what would I do now but wish you perhaps a sleep tonight? It's probably not going to happen for a lot of you. And watch out on too much stimulation. I think it's okay, but don't push yourself down too much with all this impact from the outside world. Let your art come from within you, and lovely things come out in the dark. Beautiful creatures come out in the dark, and beautiful art arises in stillness and in darkness and quiet. Let's keep that alive. So I wish you a happy sleep, and I wish that everything will be okay for all of us. Okay. Thank you.